welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar, Hoke here, Tom Jacobs. How are we doing?
I mean, I'm good. I mean, look, I was never right last week, really. I mean, Cahonan played okay. Southgate actually threatened, like on Saturday, I think it was. Like, he was inside the top 15, like 3 under, could have got inside the top 10, made a push on Sunday, and then he just fell away. But Lucas Herbert and Kurt Kitayama did not shower themselves in glory for you on Sunday. Let's just say that.
This year, I would say, of DP World Tour betting has got to be one of the more frustrating ones that we've really come across. And I mean, everyone goes through the spikes. Last year was unbelievable from a winner standpoint when we were very hot overall. And we've been all around the leaderboard. Sundays wake up excited and just have not shook out our way. I mean, if you told me Kurt Kitayama was to lead the field in tee to green by 2 strokes, knowing the kind of putter he is, like,
yeah.
That to me is all you could ask for. You would think he would for sure. I mean, he wasn't even anywhere close. Like, he didn't place, you know.
No.
So that was tough. Herbert. I don't want
he
to
was
say
he was very upset. He was visually and audibly angry at himself, which I've never really seen him get like.
Yeah, I mean, to end his round Thursday and Friday with bogeys on par 5s. That's just a tough pill to swallow. That's realistically could be an easy 4-stroke swing.
Yeah.
And you have a cushion versus pushing. And I mean, he ended up placing, so that's nice. But, you know, I do want to, of course, congratulate Bob McIntyre, somebody who we've been vocal about being difficult and hard on. You know, I really, really like Bob McIntyre as a person, as a golfer, as somebody who probably is now front runner for a future Ryder Cup spot, you know, winning at the venue. Just those numbers we weren't getting to, and he needed Sunday 64 to come through, and almost gave it away a couple of times, Saturday and Sunday. But genuinely happy for Bob because that's a big win. That's the biggest win he's had in his life.
100%. Like, I tweeted out just directly after I had it kind of prepared for when he won, but all day he played how he should more often. Like, he was electric on the front 9. Started, I think, was it back 9 with a bogey, but bounced right back on 12. And then 14, 15, you're like, okay, bogey. Like, I know they're tougher holes, but slightly concerned about what was happening with Bob McIntyre here. Fortunately for him, no one else could really seem to get control of it either. I mean, we talk about people struggling in contention. Rory McIlroy was awful. You know, really bad. And I got it wrong about Fitz last week, is one thing I would say. Like, I was really wrong on him. I thought that his game was not in the right place, and he maybe was just exhausted from the year and came back. And to be honest, barring a phone going off in his backswing on the tee in the playoff hole, he probably could have won it. I mean, it would have just gone to an extra hole, I'd have thought. But, take nothing away from Bob. He was great. Like you say, massive implications because of the Ryder Cup venue, because of who was there when he did it, you know, beating Fitz directly, beating Rory when he's in contention. That's what he needed to do. I almost just consider it his first win, because that win in Cyprus was basically nothing, right? You can't take it away, but it doesn't really mean an awful lot. And the fact that he did it on that venue against the people that he did at the time that he did, I think they came back and said Rory had actually name dropped him earlier in the week as a potential star for the Ryder Cup. And look, I don't want to dog in him, but he's there and in that contention because we don't have much else at the moment. You know, the pool of players is looking pretty thin, so we do need someone like him to step up. And I think he'd be a great match play player. I think he'd be brilliant. So really hope that he does now kick on from this. We see this sometimes where they win and it doesn't materialize into anything else, and I'm just hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that he was very vocal about the fact that he was been poor all season, was, you know, really lost, and got his new coach, which is Eddie Pepperell's coach, and you know, just a lot of good stuff. So I think it's really promising for him.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's his first win. He didn't even lead the 72 holes if you went on the cumulative score at the showdown. But he had won, I believe, his second professional start on the MENA Tour back in 17. think he like hit one in like on an eagle on the last hole or something crazy. And that's his first win since then, realistically, and
Yeah.
big time for Bob. Definitely want him in that atmosphere because he steps up in the moments. You know, the
Yeah.
majors, he like for him, top 10 majors to 12th place at the Masters, like those are huge, huge. You know, I think I don't want to say he isn't able to step up, but winning is definitely something that he needs to do to get to that next level and continue to kick on. So I'm very happy for that. And you're right, down the stretch there were, and I think the Fitz point, we I don't want to necessarily say wrong because you know you have to pick somebody at the top,
Yep.
but we have the conversation of when you get elevated players in the DP World Tour. I kind of view it actually very similar to Lowry winning at Wentworth. I don't think Lowry was in the same stretch of form he had been during the summer, you know, but class is class, especially when it comes to the field. So I think more often than not, when betting's different, betting at the numbers especially different, but on DraftKings or peer-to-peer style stuff, when you can get a lower owned or not as trusted stud because they're a little bit out of form, these guys can easily win on the DP World Tour back-to-back weeks, in my opinion. We saw Fitzpatrick very low owned in DraftKings this past week. So I think it just shows how much people gravitated to Rory, which made a lot of sense, of course. But yeah, anytime those big time stars can win. But this week, you know, this week's a little bit different. You know, we have the Kazoo Open, Red Lake Golf National. Seeing, you know, a Ryder Cup or a former Ryder Cup venue last seen, you know, just I guess the scenes that we did have there when, you know, the European team had won in 2018. I guess we did see it the next year at 2019 when Nicholas Colzart had won there, which was really out of the blue when Colzart had popped up. Victory prior to that, Alex Noren, Tommy Fleetwood, Tongchine Jaidi, Bern Wiesberger, back-to-back GMAC victories there. The Golf National, in my head, I easily go back to what the way they set it up for the Ryder Cup. Thick rough, emphasis on accuracy. You know, it played right into the favor of the European team. Now, Nikolai Colzart doesn't fit that bill, in my opinion. So I'm trying not to really pigeonhole myself on course thoughts. But what do you prepare kind of in this week when it comes to Le Golf National?
So I agree with you. I think that like just because Colzart's was an outlier doesn't mean we should get away from what we think the golf course is, right? Like it's a claustrophobic golf course. You have to be accurate off the tee. There's some holes that make you take driver out your hands. There's some holes that if you take driver out, if you take driver, you're going to look pretty stupid, but you can do it. So that there's a lot of forced layups, which is good for people that are bad off the tee. So I'd say that if someone's been really good with greens and regulation recently, but terrible off the tee, Guido, then this would be a good golf course for them, right? But we sort of talked off air. It's we talk about Ryder Cup venues, and it's a stadium course build with wind. And one of the other Ryder Cup venues is Celtic Manor, which has the same sort of layout. And there's been an awful lot of crossover. I mean, Tongchai Jaidi, Alex Noren, and Graham McDowell have all won at both. Peter Uline's been runner-up at both. Richard Sterney's been runner-up at both. Fleetwood's won here and been a runner-up at Celtic Manor. Hughes Lawson has won and finished runner-up at Celtic Manor and finished top 6 and top 9 here, I think. So, it's a really obvious crossover. So, interestingly, when you sent me your picks over and we sort of exchanged them, a lot of those kind of players fit into that mold without even necessarily us being conscious of it until we then sort of narrowed it down. It only supports what we were saying. So, great crossover there. I think it's important. I think that both can be affected by wind. Both needs some accuracy, and both have got that Ryder Cup feel about them. Whether that really plays into hands in years gone past, I don't know. But and I suppose one of the things we should consider is the people that have won at both are all just really classy players that could probably win on any given week. But I don't want to completely ignore it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a further emphasis to kind of our selections, and hopefully means we're in the right direction when it comes to, being the course fit. And some course horses we're on, but the odds, that's where I guess the name of the game does come down to, and where we really have to hone in, because we have Thomas Pieters leading off the board, and Pieters probably could be picture perfect for what this course, if he can drive it long and accurate, that's going to be very helpful. He's 16s. Patrick Reed is coming over, headlining kind of here from the live side, 16-1. Robert McIntyre, 20-1 right there, who I think actually is pretty generous in some ways. I guess kind of contradicts everything we've said prior, but Feely's right there with those guys. Victor Perez, leading Frenchman there that I think is interesting. But we back up at least for our first couple conversations on golfers 30-1 and under. Who would you open with, at least a discussion?
So at least of those groups you just sort of said there, like all of them, make perfect sense, right? And I think also Jordan Smith and Victor Perez, stand out. Perez was really impressive last week and was unfortunate not getting the playoffs. But I think one that you kind of want to talk about is Antoine Rosner, right? It's someone that we have been betting, have wanted to bet. Basically every week that we haven't bet him, we wanted to bet him, but price has got in the way, or we just don't believe he can make the putts. And he's now 20-1, 22-1, and you think, well, you still can't make the putts. They're still not going in. He's never played the golf course, and he's never played in Wales either, I don't think. So on paper, it looks like a really good golf course for him. The accuracy is required. He's top of the charts in ball striking and driving accuracy, total accuracy. He's played well in the wind in the past. We've seen that in his previous wins as well. So realistically, very, very good golf course for him. I just can't get away from the fact that he's priced basically the same as, Victor Perez, Bob, who's just won. Even Jordan Smith's been more consistent than him throughout the whole season. I think they both got the same obvious problem, and both have the low upside in terms of wins at the moment. But I thought he was just a little bit short in the betting, despite the fact he makes obvious appeal.
Yeah, I think it's the one where you look like a fool when he wins next week, but at some point you do have to plant a flag. I mean, the irons they're gonna be great every single week. It seems like they're going to be exceptional. It's not lost strokes to the field since the Dutch Open in May. It's just unbelievable stretch of irons, world class right now. And I guess the question is, I normally say when the putter turns, but if the putter turns with those irons, he's going to run away with something. He really is. And you thought that a little bit even early last week that could happen. So for me, I think I'm okay just passing on the number and continuing down.
We did this with Bernd Wiesberger last year. Ball striking was incredible all the way through Dubai. We thought it was going to turn, never did, and never has since, right? And I'm not saying that Rosner's going to go through that extended stretch of run that Wiesberger has with his putter, but same thing. We wait and wait and wait for it to turn, and it doesn't. Eddie Pepperell, incredibly, well ball striking at the moment. Putter hasn't really heated up when he needed to. So it's tough. It was like last week. Guido was brilliant in straight game approach. Off the tee didn't match up, and the short game didn't match up in the end. So it just. We always hope that the putter is going to be the variance that eventually just goes in your way, and sometimes they're just really bad at putting, and Rosner apparently is at the moment. Yeah.
I mean, it's sustained long time. Yeah, I just think when I'm whittling down the card, and he's 30 still in the States, and I'm tempted there. I think it's very
30 is fine. He's 20 over here. 30 is probably a different conversation. So I think if you can get a 30, and definitely in DraftKings lineups, I think play Rosner. But it doesn't even feel like when Shinkwin won and he was a really short price and we kind of discounted him for the price. It doesn't even feel quite like that. He's still not playing quite that well. His ball striking is that good, but his finishes aren't as good as Shinkwin's were, I don't think.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And I think we align on kind of our next two golfers that we both are intrigued on, that we dip down a little bit deeper down the odds board, but kind of 50s, 55s kind of over here. I'll start with the first one, Jorge Campillo. I'm not normally one to back Campillo, and that's due to his, I guess, just wide range of a game. I think he's at least somewhat kind of calmed it down as we've gone through the stretch, but you aren't for sure if you are going to get those irons firing. What you are going to, kind of get at least some consistency is he's decent off the tee. He's really, really good from a short game perspective. He's going to chip well. There's difficult holes here. He's going to putt extremely well. I mean, we've seen him when he has put good irons in play. He's basically going to top 10 the event. He did that at the Irish Open, really strong field. He did that at Omega. At BMW, he actually didn't putt the way he could with his irons. Good Italian Open, top 10 last week. There's enough there that you go back to nationality. He has the top 20s the last 6 times. So I just think overall for me, there's enough trending, and he really does fit that corollary course that you were intrigued on a lot.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things. And, Campillo is actually just playing some really solid golf. And, obviously that's important, right? There's no point in overlooking that. Like when you look at his last kind of 15 weeks, he's got 3 top 10s in there. He's got a top 15. 2 of them have come in the last 3 starts. He's played well in Wales. Played well here. Like that's another factor. Like this is a horses for courses type thing. He's got an 8th for the 15th and an 18th place finish. So really do like what Campillo is. I don't know if I'm going to get there just because we've got a couple of others in this this area. But I think he's a really tidy player and certainly someone that can win. We know he can win.
Yeah, the only why I don't feel great, or maybe why it's a leak in my type of selections, is what you're getting from Rosner this week ahead. You really don't know at times what you're getting from Campillo. So it's you have to pick the spots in which you can select him. He's not somebody you ride week in and week out. It's you hope you find the pop. You hope I kind of feel similar to him and Pablo Larafo. That's kind of that feel of you pray it all lines up on one week and they can be right in the mix with the best of them, but it is not somebody who I stomach well selecting, but 50s feels pretty good for somebody who definitely has top 10 form, leading into here. You would say realistically, his form is better than Rosner's because it's popped, versus just middling type of finishes. So he's one here for me. Another one, and this number actually kind of gives me a little bit more trouble. Probably than even Rosner, just because it's so much different than what it was when he popped at Wentworth. But can you go into detail kind of why you like Andy Sullivan this week?
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like him. And I think that the price has come in, but it's coming for a reason. We know that this is an elite's probably a bit strong, a high level European Tour player who can win multiple times, right? He's been on a Ryder Cup team, 6 straight made cuts here. So he missed his cut on debut and then, made 6 in a row. He was a 54 hole leader on his debut here, 9th in strokes gained approach last week, 3 top 20s before missing the cut last week. So I just think, he was I think he was a round 1 leader at Wentworth as well. He's doing this stuff now where he's contending. He's getting himself back in the mix in general. He's now coming back to a golf course that he likes. He's played well in Wales. He's got a top 3 finish there as well. And we sort of referenced that earlier when we were speaking off air, Sky, that's when this kind of run of improved form probably started. That 3rd place finish at Kazoo Open. I mean, are they all Kazoo Opens this year? We've got 2 Kazoo Opens and a Kazoo Classic as well. So don't get your Kazoos mixed up. But interestingly enough, Kazoo are sponsoring both events. Maybe that's a sign that it's basically the same event.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. But you're right. That Kazoo Open is when those irons began to show up for Sullivan, backed it up at the Omega, really got it going at the Maiden Himmerland. And then, it was seemingly all set up for a spike at Wentworth, and he came out and tied for that first round lead, So I think that, he fell off, in round 2 and especially in round 3 there. But Italian Open, he was positive on the field every single event. And then, if you just line up what's visually been showing to us, plus that course history, plus your comp, it's just an overall really, really good kind of way that I think he's showing up here. And 55s is the longest of odds that we have in the States. So just because he was 300 to 1 at Wentworth, it's you're really seeing that slash. But I can get behind Sullivan there for sure. And we're aligning again on the next one. Golfer you were on last week, a golfer who, man, I think I am going a little bit more out of my comfort zone this week than what I would normally do. Because Mikko Kohonen is somebody that I trouble to figure out the where to select him, what's going on with him. But one thing that he's going to show up and do is hit almost every fairway. His accuracy is 15 to 20% better than field average almost every single week. And knowing that's going to happen when he shows up here, it's actually very surprising that he doesn't have any good results kind of playing here. I'm a little shocked that doesn't line up. But why are we going back to the Mikko well this week?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's had 15th and third place finishes in his last two starts at Celtic Manor, so that's one of the things we do like. And you obviously referenced that he doesn't have any great finishes here. I mean, 26th and 33rd his first two starts, miscut, 38th miscut. So the miscuts never.
I guess could be better, but
yeah,
not that bad.
The miscuts don't bother me because it's a golf course that, like Wentworth, I think you can just get caught out on. You have a bad day and you're out, right? So I think that the 26th, 33rd, 38th is what you should be focusing on. Then I think back, was the field strength better when he was 26th, 33rd, and 38th than it is this week? And I think it probably was. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just thinking about the people that have won here: Alex Norrens, the Tommy Fleetwoods, the people like that. Yes, we've got Patrick Reed here, but he's kind of in and out at the moment. Yes, we've got Thomas Peters here, same sort of thing. Like, they're not consistently the best players on the DP World Tour, despite the fact they've got the talent to be like that. So I think potentially just the way he's been playing, the ball striking has been brilliant. Didn't keep himself into contention last week, which was a shame. But he was inside the top, 15 last week, and I think that was a pretty strong result.
Yeah, so looking back there, he was 125s to 150s, the two events where he had those finishes when he made the cut. I think the most disappointing one would have been in 2018. He was 50-1 that week, coming off a first and second place finish. So literally riding some really, really good form. But, I mean, it's 4 years ago, and I like what he's doing leading into right now more than that. Because his season has been sneaky pretty good.
Yeah, like I said last week, and I think like Barrow said when he stepped in for the week, like he's just been good all year, and like it kind of passes you by because he hasn't been there on a Sunday too often, but his irons have been great. He's just a very mature player. He's in his 40s. Like, it took him a long time to win, but then when he did it, he backed it up quite quickly. And like you say, he come in and missed the cut after finishing first and second. That's probably because he put an awful lot of pressure on himself to then kind of perform at a golf course. Because if we look at these things and we look at these players and go, this course is going to suit them, they must think the same thing. They can't be, they can't be. We sometimes think, do they know whether they should play here or not? Like, Callum Shinkwin should be here. I do not understand why Callum Shinkwin is not playing this week. So I would be on the phone to Callum Shinkwin's agent and telling him to put a late entry in because he should play here and play well based on his Wales form. But yeah, I like Kohonen. I think it's one of those ones where, like, I was very aware that I had a decision to make once backing him last week. Like, he was 100 and whatever it was, 25-1 last week. Didn't quite get it done, but he didn't do an awful lot wrong. Like, and he had one bad day, and it was a slow day on the first day. And I would feel really stupid abandoning ship after that because of the number. And the reason the number is what it is because we lose Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, Matt Fitzpatrick, like Tyrrell Hatton as well. That's a significant drop off to what we had in this field. Yeah,
that's a good point on why we have it. And like in my head, like I don't view these guys playing for places as much as what last week was.
Yeah.
Like, you knew Fitz and Rory, or at least Rory for sure, one of the guys, if not more than one, and we ended up with three of them. Yeah. All are going to be in that top 10, So, it's that's a scary way to bet last week, and you hope you get lucky with a good place and get kind of back in the saddle. But yeah, I think these guys can absolutely win it, and Mikko stands out still at the number. But if I would say, if I'm walking away with literally one selection on the week, and immediately was running to bet this guy, just because if I think of course bet, a lot of people are probably going to say next week is when Matthew Southgate can get there and get over the line, and that's because of his links prowess, and totally understand that. But if I had to like ballpark the way I was set up this course. I mean, it's play from the fairway, which he does, hit those irons and hit those greens like he's absolutely doing, and then just you hope the short game cooperates. He can't chip that well. We've seen that for an extended period of time, but he can spike his putting. He definitely has had multiple spike putting weeks, kind of in the last lead up. I mean, you're looking at 27th with a flash over the last week, 13th at Wentworth. Very, very good. Very, very good irons at Wentworth. 4th made in Himmerland. 23rd, kind of the Omega. If you look at course history, 5th last time he played here, in 2016, he had an 11th place there. I mean, he is the epitome of how you set up for this golf course, and you're getting 60s at Southgate. I'm running to the window for that ticket.
So, again, I was concerned, basically the same as Cahonan, that I didn't want to just abandon them, and why is that? And the reason being is I actually think if I take stock of what I did last week, I think I got caught up in numbers on both of them and thought, they just stand out. Whereas I think this is such a better course fit for actually both of them. Like, I know they've both had decent finishes at the Italian Open and stuff like that, but like, this is where Southgate can stand out. Like, it's a wind affected golf course. It relies on your accuracy. He can get hot with the putter at times. Yes, the Dunhill Links is unquestionably a better event for him, but if he plays well this week, he's gonna be, he probably will. I don't know who's in that field yet. I haven't actually looked. I think is Rory playing in that? Is Rory playing?
Yeah, he is.
So you could probably get this number again next week, despite him playing well. But like, then you're expecting him to beat Rory and whoever else is in the field. So like, loads of people are going to bet him next week. Like, it's just going to be so obvious that he's going to get bet next week. And if he plays badly, then that's great because his odds are going to go out and he's probably still got a great chance. But I would take a chance like you that he does actually play well this week again.
Yeah. So, I mean, I load up tour tips. We're here playing it. You look at current form, last 8 weeks. McIntyre's 1. Okay. Then you're going to get Campillo 2. And you're getting the second golfer in last 2-month form with 5 events played, finishing, second on that. Love that. So I think that's really good when you get that 50s there. Perez, Peters, you're looking at 1, 2 or 1, 3, 4 at the odds right there. 5th, Matthew Southgate. Just stand, and then you go below that. Reed and Rosner stand out right below there. You know what I mean? Like, 2 anomalies when it comes to the odds boards of that current form. And not to say 8-week form is like, what you're going to literally be living off of. But I just think once you get these numbers in this field, I mean, and you can stretch it out, Campillo is still, 5th in form, and you're still going to find Southgate not as high because his run kind of started a little bit later than that. But I just think, there's so much there with Southgate that I can't actually. No, if you stretch it out, let me double check. He is 8th when you stretch it out longer to 15 weeks. So I absolutely love the Southgate play this week.
I just look while you were talking there. I listened to everything you said, agree with it. I'm just looking at field for next week. Rory, Fitzpatrick, Horschel, Lowry, Hatton, Fleetwood, Oosthuizen, and Gooch, Peters, Fox are the first 10, 12 names that come up. So it's going to be a really tough week to contend next week. So why not take a chance on him on a golf course that basically stands out for the same reasons? I think it's fair enough. Like, you need more accuracy this time, whereas obviously St Andrews and the others sort of let you get a little bit off kilter. But like, yeah, I love it. I think I loved him last week. He didn't quite perform, and because his irons weren't as good as they have been, I was a bit concerned. But like, I'm just going to go back to him and give him another chance.
Yep. I don't want to kind of lose that overall form and not get too sensitive to recent weeks. So I dipped down decent bit further, kind of where I land. Is there any other golfers kind of in this 60 to 100 range, or even like 80s or so, that you would like to talk before I dig in?
Where did Thorbjørn Olesen land on the odds board?
He is a little bit shorter than that, I do believe. Let's see. I thought he was like in the 50 to 1. Yeah, he overseas. He's 40s. If I run across here, so I have 40 there. I think he was a little bit 37. Yeah, so 40 to 1 is the longest that you're going to see Thunder Bear.
Yeah. So no to him then. There was a couple. One of them being Tom Lewis again. He seems to he
Yes.
was 100 odd to 1 and has come into kind of 80s. Now he's got 4 missed cuts at this golf course out of 4 starts, I think it is. But it strikes me as a course that he should do well on, like wind exposed, accuracy. Like he's been really accurate recently on the European Tour, DP World Tour. Just seems to keep sneaking up there, and I still hold this belief, like I did the first week that he came back, that he is rededicated to this. You obviously pointed out he's got no status. He needs to take advantage of these. How is he even getting in? Is it past champion stuff?
I can't stand the European Tour field qualifiers.
But he's been it was quite funny. They talked about it on the broadcast yesterday, and they're like, oh, it's been such an uncharacteristic front nine for Tom Lewis as he made a few bogeys. And I was like, that's basically been Tom Lewis for like 90% of his last 100 starts. But like when he does peak and when he drops down to this level, he is a significantly better player. And I think the odds are still not indicative of that. Like you could get 100 to 1 about him. I think he's shortened up a little bit. Yeah, Tom Lewis is worth looking at again.
Yeah, that was a very good recovery 9 that he had after that opening kind of 40 that day. So yeah, I thought Lewis, when you look at kind of who's been popping in those recents, I think that absolutely makes sense. I've got a golfer that I fancy quite a bit when it comes to, I guess, under the radar kind of form in some ways. So if you remember, I mean, we were habitually betting Yannick Paul for a stretch of golf, comes out, shows out well after, kind of getting through onto the European Tour. And that stretch where we almost kind of hit him, I believe. I think we might have been on him at Soudal, or at least the British Masters, kind of betting him in that stretch. And then these guys hit this weird stretch of golf. It's just the ones that played, like, as weird as it could possibly get. You go through the U.S. Open and into the Irish Open type of run. Those guys that play the Scottish or the Open Championship, like that was something where your big events. And then you're forced, if you get into them, you could go, if you can't get into those, you're playing the Barbasol and the Barracuda. You're playing over there. Yannick also stayed to Monday qualify, gets into the Wyndham Championship, makes the cut, finishes 36. Because of those points, after the top 20s at the Barracuda and Barbasol, gets into Korn Ferry Tour finals. He's over there, and he misses the first 2 cuts. But what's interesting to me is follow him on Instagram, and I think it's always actually a really good way to get some kind of insight, kind of golfers. His Korn Ferry Tour stats, even though he was missing cuts there, were actually pretty encouraging from the way he talked about kind of it. So if you looked in the one, let's see, that he missed the cut in, I believe he ended up finishing like still with a strong greens and regulation in one, and a really strong driving accuracy in another one. Enough where I was like, okay, like in Korn Ferry Tour finals, he should be somebody that we're interested in. Sure enough, he finishes top 20 at Korn Ferry Tour finals. He finishes 4th in driving accuracy that week. The greens and regulation fell off a little bit, but for him to finish 17th after making the cut on the number was very encouraging in my opinion. Then he comes in, he was supposed to Monday qualify actually last week for the Fortinet, and ended up just coming over and playing last week at the Italian Open, where he opens in 12th place, 68, 2 middling rounds, 75, 73, and then closes with a 66. So bookend rounds after getting back from the States, and kind of accompanying himself for the first time here in a while playing overseas. I just think the 95s there's just enough to me. Like I view him talented than a lot of golfers that he is priced around. So he's 95 to 1, man. I just really think, betting on what we've seen out of Yannick from the season, there is a lot there, and 95s gives a good number.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're always talking about the long-term future of some of these guys. We believe in the long-term talent of Yannick Paul. He's still getting acclimatized. This is his first full season on the DP World Tour, right? And he's also playing on the Korn Ferry. He's also playing on the PGA Tour. He's also he's not just had a settled season anywhere since turning pro, and like that's just not an easy thing to ignore. So the fact that he's doing what he's doing outside, alongside all those sort of schedule changes, it's really impressive. So I really like Yannick Paul. One person actually that is right next to him on our odds board, maybe a little bit different for you guys, is Romain Langasque. And we talk about Celtic Manor. He's obviously won there, and he's played well here in the past. So he's definitely getting out to a price that is suitable for Romain Langasque. Still not sure he can do it again, but the price is good.
Yeah. Before I go to my last selection, I'm not going to only let you say the word Guido on our show. So I'm not going to be selecting him this week. And that is, I've accepted that if he wins, I want it so bad. I want it. But I can't be showing up betting a guy who is dead last in driving accuracy. I know he was third in strokes gained approach.
Yeah.
He's literally, him and Alex Fitzpatrick, the guys in the field, are just missing like every fairway. It's awful. It's literally awful. So I guess if you are gaining strokes out of the rough and approach and finishing third in approach, that's encouraging, but it's still the positions he's putting himself on the greens aren't better than a golfer who was decent off the tee and decent approach. He's terrible off the tee and good approach. The end result is still middling when it comes to ball striking. So the short game is good, but I really couldn't. I would much rather bet him next week than this week, I think, when it comes to the way I look at him.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the right golf course for him anyway, even before he's kind of flashed with his irons and then been really poor with his off the tee stuff. And to your point, it's just not the time. But the only thing I would say to counter that, which I don't need to give you too much encouragement, and luckily you've already made your stance on him, but he's going to have to club down sometimes, at this golf course. And maybe that takes it away from him. I think about him, I think about Paratore, people like that are just terrible off the tee, that are just not going to have the opportunity to be terrible off the tee, because they play everywhere else and they have to hit these drivers to try to keep up and can't, because they're so bad with it, that maybe they kind of come into their own a bit this week. But I'm not willing to find out either.
Yeah, rooting for him. Absolutely rooting for him. He ended up being the second highest owned golfer on DraftKings last week, which warmed my heart, because everyone wants to be Seguido.
There's way too much.
He played fine.
There's way too much echo chamber there, isn't there?
He's in a better spot. I mean, he's 100th now on the DP World Tour rankings, looking like a good card. Has not missed a cut since the Open Championship. Things are looking up. Let's just find some off the tee game for us, Guido, and then we can fully rip it, even in a big field. That leads to my final selection, and gosh, I would dare say, I guess if it was Southgate 1, I don't know. The more we talk through this week, and maybe it's because we align a lot, but I like the card. I think the card is shaping up where, even though it's question marks and hoping for spikes on some golfers, I think we're getting good numbers on good form golfers who are good course fits. And that to me is encouraging. Also, with the top of the leaderboard not being something that I'm truly scared of, I think it lines up for something I'm very interested in. And this ends up wrapping up with, for me, my card, Christian Krog Johansson. I think him being 100-1 in this field is wild. Absolutely wild. So that stretch on the DP, we're on the Challenge Tour, 22nd, 26th, then he goes 5th, 18th, victory, 10th, 21st, 15th, 9th, 5th, shows up at that first event, Maiden Timberland, 3rd in Timberland, scared us for a victory there. Really, really good with the putter. Wasn't all that good off the tee. He really came from approach the rest of the way in. And then what did he do? BMW PGA Championship, Wentworth for the kid. Wentworth, 27 years old, I guess, older than a kid, but 32nd at Wentworth in your debut, gaining a strong amount off the tee, realistically through that kind of accuracy from what he has. And again, you don't really have a profile for somebody like him overall, because he hasn't had that many strokes gained, kind of stats. But to show that when it comes to Wentworth, I think that's so encouraging. So 100-1 for somebody that I would dare say is in just as good a form as anybody in this field. Just because he's only got 2 shots recently, he missed his cuts early when he played in there. He's taken advantage of this last 2 on the DP World Tour. I love that at 100-1.
Yeah, another one that I think that we've been high on for a little while now, and I can't remember where we started betting him, but it was pretty early on in the season, right? Because we follow these challenge tour guys, and we follow what we're doing. And Christian Crowe Johansson's actually been very high up my list because a guy that I know who runs his own agency made Christian Crowe Johansson one of his first ever signings. So like it's pretty impressive to see what he's doing. I think, was he a late entry into this? Did he get in late or something like that?
Yes, because his odds were not there everywhere. Yeah. So he has been priced up. It's 100 to 1, I believe, on FanDuel here in the States.
Yeah.
Let me double check here. That's the only book that I believe has priced him so far. Yeah. So DraftKings will add him and check those numbers, but I'd be in at triple digits.
Yeah, so I think he could get bigger, and not because I think he should, but because I think people will just look at it and go, if we're going to push anybody out, we can push him out. So yeah, I think there's a chance for that to get bigger, and I think I don't know enough about him. Like I don't know enough to sit there and say this is a perfect golf course for him. I think it's just one of those where like the talent level suits us. It suits what we like to do. The price suits us. So there's a lot of things going in his favour for Christian Crowe Johansson. I think we're still early on him.
I mean, the fields were worse. They were definitely worse. This field isn't like great, but it's not the worst we've seen this year. But Jens Dantorp was 28 to 1 in the spot. He was 28. So you know what I mean? He did well in his first DP World Tour start. He scared the lead on the next one, and then he was almost unbettable at those numbers. And we were interested, less 40 to 1 and less. And here we are getting triple that price for somebody in that same stretch. I love it. I really, really like it.
Yeah, I do too.
So that wraps up my selections. Now, Tom, you pulled up this show and you were out here trying to convince me to add 2 more triple digit bombs, of guys that I just love, golfers that I fancy all the time. Any excuse that I can get to play these 2 golfers, I like it. And you're digging into this connection a little bit more, but we'll probably end up being on the DraftKings side for these 2 golfers. Maybe not outrights kind of for them, but can you fill everybody in? Because people can probably guess those once you get on there, like, oh, that's a Sky selection.
So one of them, I think the one that I went to is James Morrison, right? And then we'll go on to.
Oh yeah. You have him before the other 2, please. Yeah, talk Morrison first. Give a little cliffhanger.
I'll talk Morrison. So Morrison was a 54-hole leader in 2011. He was a runner-up here in 2015. He was top 5 at Celtic Manor in the past. He's made 3 straight cuts. He was top 20 after 36 holes in Crans. He shot 62 at Himmerland, where he finished 22nd. And he was 11th after 36 holes at Wentworth before falling away in that final round. So James Morrison playing really good golf on a golf course that he can compete on, because there are limited ones that he can do that at. So I really like James Morrison. The winning upside to me isn't always there for James Morrison, but he is someone that can do it. He is someone that can shoot the lowest round of the day. I remember one of these guys that we're talking about, and then the other one you're going to have to jog my memory, but we'll go with Sami Välimäki first. So Sami Välimäki has been the runner-up in Wales to Romain Langasque back in 2020. And, for a little while there, Sky, we were getting pretty excited about Sami Välimäki in his form. Like he looked like he was going to go really well at Wentworth, and then didn't. He started off, did he start off okay and then just completely collapse? He was 13th, right?
Oh yeah, he was there early. Yeah, in Wentworth.
So he really started off really well, and then you look at the Italian Open. Like he opened with 76, but then bounced back with a 69. So the suggestion is that Sami Välimäki can do this. We know he can play well in the wind. We know he can play well on these kind of open layouts. He's obviously proven it at Celtic Manor, which we like. So I'm willing to kind of give him a chance off of those 2 missed cuts, because we just know that what I like about these people that we're kind of talking about here, we know they've won. Like, yes, it may be a couple, or maybe 2 or 3, it might be 4 in some cases, but and they may have been a long time ago. But Sami Välimäki's like 140 to 1 over here, plays well on this type of golf course, has played well recently, even in missed cuts. I do really like him. So yes, I think you're probably right. We probably should be looking at top 20s and top 10s and maybe DraftKings, but I think it's a decent number.
Yeah, I think Sammy, you could get away. I'm trying to not kind of, I don't know. If I stick to the process of what I'm seeing like that, but yeah, I think the speculative, that's the old Tom. Maybe that's what we need to get back into. Like, we're just got to find these guys that have these correlations and pop, because there's definitely flashes. So I'm interested. Now, the one you mentioned pre-show that we're probably gonna be minimum price on DraftKings and you can't. I don't think you can outright this. But you said you tried to get me to get on Hugo Leone.
Yes.
One and only Hugo Leone.
Yeah.
Yes. Fairway green, Detroit Tigers hat, Hugo Leone. But he's like 600s, 700s. But he popped at the kazoo, and he has like a T10 here, right?
Yeah, he was in his only start at this golf course. He finished 8th, and that was the best he was placed all week. But he never shot worse than 72, which is quite a feat around this golf course. Like it's a really tough event, and I'm pretty sure. Didn't we establish that he's played well in Wales as well? Like he was 14th at the Wales Open
15th.
in like 2021. Like, what more do you need? I mean, there was guys I thought David Dixon would have been a great bet for this based on his Wales Open form, but he's not here. Yeah, I mean, Hugo Leone, like if you can get one of those really big numbers on him, then he's not going to win. Like let's preface that he isn't going to win. But it's his type of golf course. There's certain people that can compete about 4 or 5 times a year, and he's one of them. And this is one of the golf courses. And
a little discouraging. He did not show up at Celtic Manor last time.
Yeah, that is a concern. Do you think there's ever been a course that fits Ashley Chester's more than this one?
Oh no.
But
Chester's. If you want to talk about infuriating not playing, Aaron Rye.
Yeah,
Aaron Rye.
Right here.
Tailor made for you, man.
Yeah.
Like this is where you show up and you win and you do. Francesco Molinari. Talk about Mollywood.
I couldn't believe Molly wasn't there.
Those guys live for this style of course. I mean, I get it. It's a big 4-week stretch. If you're going to show up 3, so we're going to show up 3 of the 4. Can you play all 4?
I said to you, didn't I, right? Like at least with Aaron Rye, like he's played a very hectic PGA Tour schedule, like grinded to keep his card. Like Molinari's barely played. Like, what are you doing? Just go and play on a golf course that suits you, man. Like you've played well recently. It's a strange one, isn't it? I mean,
I would have bet him like 20 to 1. I would have bet him.
Yeah, it's pretty good that he's not here because we probably should be betting him at 20 to 1. In the real bombs, Christopher Broberg has shown up on his golf course in the past, I believe. He's just died again after a little bit of a renaissance, but he opened 25th, 12th, 12th his first 3 starts here. Then he missed 1 cut and then finished 16th. So really likes this golf course. So maybe he flashes again. The weird thing with Broberg is he's not the type that like goes missing and flashes at a course that he likes. He just goes missing and flashes anywhere for any number of reasons. So you can't really pin it down, which is why he's the price that he is. I don't know if there's anyone else that I'm really that interested in. I think we've probably covered it. I think anything else we would just kind of be like throwing some caution to the wind. But we do like to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see Barn Rat. He's playing here this week. I believe he played somewhere last week. Did he play? It was the Italian Open. I didn't realize it was there. He had a sneaky 12th place finish.
12th place.
Italian Open.
Yeah.
That, just kind of.
Not a good golf course for it, no, I don't think.
No, not for me. Ken Holt showed up well here. Again, we're just kind of listing. We do, I guess, one more. Soren Kelton was kind of intriguing because he feels like he could fit this course, if not recently. Right.
So he was a name that I thought I was going to go to. So I wanted to have like one, and I'm glad you brought him up because I forgot, one like veteran player that has shown some sort of life recently. But when you look at like Soren Kjelsen's career here, like it was good, like, but then it just died completely. And maybe that's just because he just went off the cliff recently. But like 21st, 7th, 13th, 26th, miscut 9th, 8th, 18th, 15th. So to me, when I see something like that from Soren Kjelsen, I worry that there's not been a top 5. There's not been a win because he's someone that at that, the peak of his powers, he was winning those kind of tournaments. Not necessarily reasons. I think it's a good DraftKings play. Definitely. I think that's definitely one of the things to consider.
Okay. We can't talk everyone. So I'm going to say 2 more golfers. I had, so last week's Challenge Tour winner is teeing it up. Frenchman Pierre Pignon is playing. He won last week. Not that steady of a season on the Challenge Tour. So it just at least was notable to kind of see. And then, I just lost. Who was my last one? I guess we're closing it. We're closing it out.
While you're thinking that, we just said that it's a bad course for Rafi Barmrat. He opened up with it. So in 2014, he opened up with a 77, bounced back with a 66 and a 70 to sit 12th after 54 holes, and then shot a 78. So that is, if you ever want a snapshot of Afid Barmarat's career, 77, 66, 70, 78. Like, that is just Afid Barmarat in a nutshell. So I do think he's the type that can go. I think we kind of mentioned this about like Peters and people like that at Wentworth. Like, they've got the ability to go and have the lowest round of the day, and they've also got the ability to shoot the worst round of the day and probably withdraw. So, so a high range of outcomes for someone like Afid Barmarat.
And I found it. I actually got 2.
Great.
Done. We're going to the cards immediately after this.
Cool.
Pedro Figueiredo is getting a spot. Good to see Pedro. Vote for Pedro. And then what was very odd to me is you don't see a full-time PGA Tour player, one of the best Korn Ferry Tour players for the long season, the 2020 to 2022 season, basically, when they got the graduate. Paul Barignon is playing in this event, and he is like 150s. It's just very like, he has shown basically nothing. Made one cut in Korn Ferry Tour finals, but it just stands out when you look at kind of who priced around with it.
Yeah, I thought that because I think they were advertising it as like Patrick Reed and Paul Barjon playing in the French Open for the first time. And I was like, that is such a weird way to partner those two together. And then Patrick Reed's actually been used for quite a lot of the marketing materials. I don't know if it's the same in Golf Channel over there, but like Golf Channel Slovakia or something had Patrick Reed as the cover guy. So that was interesting.
All right, let's card it. We got to card it.
Let's do it.
Okay, you go first.
So I'm going to go with Andy Sullivan. I do really like him. I think is he 50 to 1 over there?
55 is best I could find before this.
55, great. Mikko Korhonen, similar price as well, and Matthew Southgate. I think all of them kind of in that same 50, 55, 60 to 1 range. And then James Morrison, you're going to have to tell me in terms of his price, please. 125 to 1 over here.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. So we align on those top 3. Jorge Campillo, 50 to 1. Andy Sullivan, or I guess you're not Campillo, you're on the next 3. So Campillo, 50 to 1 for me to start out. Andy Sullivan, 55 to 1. Matthew Southgate with you, 60 to 1. Mikko Korhonen, 60 to 1. And then I round out with Yannick Paul, 95 to 1. And then Christian Kroh Johansson at 100 to 1. Tom, I'm feeling good this week. It's time. Let's get everybody in the mix on Sunday, because we know 90% of them are going to fail, and one of them is going to fall into a victory. It's going to be us this week.
So one of the things that we've got going this week is that we're so much in alignment. Like, even though I haven't picked Campillo, I like him as well. So I do think that people should go with him. We could have either the ultimate sweat on Sunday or just have zero interest in the event. And like there's like 1 or 2 outcomes, right? But like I was rooting for you and Herbert and Kitayama yesterday. Didn't happen, but like, yeah, I think we've profiled this event well. Like, I think we've taken into account a lot of different stuff, and other people will, right? Like, we're not going to be the only ones that do it, but like, I think the Wales Open things are really good. I think that just the type of player that we're targeting really helps. I think the fact that we're not scared to go back to players after last week is key.
Yep, 100%. And next week is going to be awesome on the DP World Tour. You listed off the field, but Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. I do want to put a reminder, if you guys prefer the audio format, you can always find us on all your different podcast platforms. Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. Please rate, review, subscribe, like our YouTube page. Love seeing the comments. Try to interact on there always, and we're always available on Twitter. You can find me at SkyHookDFS. Tom, where can they find you?
Yeah, Tom Jacobs 93 for me.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's have a big week, Tom. Feeling good. Fun golf course, an entertaining one. Definitely has kind of some train wrecks around the corner if you can't keep it in place. So you can wake up Thursday morning over here in the States and see some big old numbers. So let's fingers crossed we can avoid them with our guys.
I hope so. It's gonna be a fun week. First time we've seen this event for 3 years, so looking forward to it.
Yep. Awesome. Well, good luck everybody, and we'll catch you next week for the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. Thanks again.